Welcome back to the Student Hub Live. So you've signed up for online study, but there are real people at the end of a real telephone for a lot of the day and weekend, actually, who you can talk to if you need help and support. But you don't necessarily need to be struggling to get help and support. So I'm joined by Naziba and Jennifer from our student support team to talk about the ways in which you help students. And also Scott is in our student support team as well. And we have a challenge that anyone can ask you any questions, Scott, and you're going to try your best to answer it. And HJ is really just doing the cat pictures right now, aren't you, HJ?
Yeah.
You've been demoted, but we love them. Who's been sending in some pictures?
I've got some fantastic pictures. This is a picture of how Dominic's set up and watching Student Hub Live at the moment. So, he looks like his computer's quite organised, a nice comfy position there. So we'd like to see more of the view from where you are of the Student Hub. We've got a picture of, I'm not sure if we've had a parrot before as a study buddy. So this is Mara's study buddy, Greenie, making a show on here, Student Hub Live.
For recall if you've got to remember terms.
That's it. You can use them to practice questions for the exams. And we've got Natalie's study buddy, Bolt. Apparently Bolt is very helpful with study, but I think maybe Bolt's a bit more distracting than anything. And we've got Lou's crazy desk space as well. Lou's an aspiring primary teacher, so she doesn't have one favourite piece of stationery. Everything's her favourite. And speaking of our watchers from outside the UK as well, Daphne's watching from Mexico City, and what she's done is made some bookmarks with her TMA titles on. So as she's going through and bookmarking, she can keep her TMAs in mind, which is absolutely fun. Are you eating that?
No. Sorry.
There's lots of people in the chat that want that. It's not fair to eat it in front of us.
Quick sugar rush. Okay, and what are you sending everyone back?
So we've got some fantastic posters from the Open University. If you've seen any of the Open University programmes, there's loads of posters that go with them. So we've got a fantastic one for the Blue Planet, and there's loads of great stuff in here for your study as well. And we've got a fantastic poster from the Oceans programme as well. And this is one of my favourites, actually. I can't decide which one is my favourite, but I think they're all my favourite. And we've also got a poster from the Planet series as well, which someone has taken away. But everyone who's sending in the photo, let us know it's your photo and you're happy for us to use it, and also your address, because, as I say, it's only fair that we send something back to you as well.
I bet he'll be filling us in on planets as Dave Rothery, our quizmaster.
That's it, yeah.
He'll be going
I'm really excited for our quiz later. It's always good fun and a good chance for everyone to join in. And if you want to test out your favourite search engine as well, it's great for you to join us.
No, that's not how it works. Okay, great. So, student support team, then, briefly, what does it do?
Okay, so we are from the Faculty of Business and Law. Jen and I basically support students who communicate with us via different forms, and we're there to basically support students with any difficulties they have, if they need some advice or guidance with their qualification choice. Generally, we're just there to support them throughout their studies, before their studies, and towards the end of their studies as well.
And it's great to know that each of the faculties or areas have people who sort of know about that area, because sometimes students might be on a particular qualification, or they might want to know something about a particular module, or there's certain things sometimes within a qualification that can matter. So it's great that you guys specialise, don't you?
Yeah, because we work quite closely with the careers team as well. So we have an advisor from the careers team that works in our team. So if ever we need to kind of ask more questions around career progression, we just work together to give that student the answer, or we'll direct that student towards the careers team to then speak about it a bit more. And
brilliant. Excellent. Would you expect calls now, because people are feeling a bit anxious about stuff before the module?
Yeah, definitely. We actually have it throughout the year, because some students want to find out quite early on what to expect.
Yeah.
Some students we tend to kind of contact, if we can, before the modules start, just to sort of prepare them for it. But yeah, we generally do get a lot of students calling beforehand, just to kind of work out what to expect from the course.
What do they say?
They just say things like, the most common question would be, what time is our lectures at, and things like that. And at that point, I'd just try and explain to the student what the Open University is about, how the learning is taught, and how they can expect the sessions to run. So we would explain to them, everything is done predominantly online. It's distance learning, so if you wanted to, you could go on to the face-to-face tutorials or the online tutorials, and just discuss it with them how their study is structured.
Yeah, because it can be a weird thing, and very often, I mean, sometimes you might know stuff, but you don't know it, like you hear about these tutorials and you know it's distance learning, but then sometimes you do think, have I got to be a certain place at a certain time, And I saw a post that was somebody saying, oh, my nearest tutorial's in Cheltenham or Swindon and I live here, and what's that all about?
Yeah, we do get that quite a lot, actually. Students who, quite rightly, just before they start their module, do get that little bit of pre-nerves. Yeah. So you will have them calling up, like, do I have to log in at this time on the dot? Do I have to go anywhere in particular? So really just letting them know, managing their expectations for what the study is actually like is really important, and it is something that does pick up right before modules start.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Luke and Brittany and Anna, all very interested in the lollipop, I hear. Scott, are you doing your best to answer everyone's questions?
Yes.
Are you trying super hard?
I'm trying to get to KMS. I'm trying to get to our knowledge system.
No spelling mistakes, hey?
Anyway, yes. So, I'm trying to answer Chiara's question at the moment. People seem to be talking mostly about their study spaces, though, at the moment, which is hugely important. It's one of the things we talk about with new students, especially, that, that's one of the questions I ask them. Have you thought about that? Have you set up a study space? Have a, and it's because it makes a huge difference to your,
And Chloe Ann said as well that she wanted a calm space that she doesn't have to keep reorganising as she goes. So she doesn't have a table or a desk, but apparently her bed with a makeup box on top and a plank of wood in front of it is good enough.
It is, though. You can study anywhere. And, I mean, for me, my study space is a tip, but it's mine. I've got all my piles of paper lined up the way I want them. No one can touch them. And for me, that matters more than all the stationery and this, that and the other, because it's my safe space I can sort of go into when I need to focus. But so many people can think, I don't have a space in my house for a desk, and so many people are studying on the kitchen table with the toys pushed to one side or by the swimming pool.
We always actually suggest something called Sconnell. I don't know if you've spoken about it.
We haven't yet.
Oh, okay. It's basically a platform where universities across the UK have signed up to, and if students have a local university to them, they could actually sign up to the Sconnell scheme, see if that university is under that scheme, and they could go over to their library and use their academic services like the library, the Wi-Fi, and it's quite a nice space to kind of take yourself, it's kind of nice to go there and take yourself away from your home environment if that is quite chaotic or busy. And
sometimes it can really help you focus if you think, I'm going to go and do this particular task at this location and then go home. Leon's got a study space made out of old kitchen bits, which I think is great. Brilliant. Send us a picture, we'll send you something back, Leon, and you can put it on there. We've asked you at home what sorts of things you might need support with. And also we've got some multi-choice questions here. They're super easy because all you need to do is just click on the one that most applies to you. So let's see what you had to say about the things that you think you might need help with in your studies. Referencing is key, but time management is the big elephant in the room here. Anxiety, dyslexia, disability, making time organisation, basic questions, difficulty at home, academic writing, stress, motivation, study skills, biscuit allowance, well, yes, quite, tiredness, understanding TMAs and health issues. We have a variety of things. As I said, we've got time management, but we've also got a Student Hub Live session on understanding the question and various other things like critical thinking as well. Is that a fairly representative list of words?
Yeah. I think so, definitely.
Yeah.
Particularly the time management, so things that students often do call up, like if they are struggling with anything or if they're struggling to keep up with something. Most of our students work or they have other commitments going on, so that can be a really big thing for them to sort of be able to manage, especially if they haven't been in education before or if they haven't been in it for a while. And the distance learning, it does take away that fixed time that you're in lectures or things like that, so to be able to create and manage your time is really important for study.
I would just add on to that and say that is like a really common issue that we do have a lot, where it's just hard to sort of balance everything together. So usually if students do come to us and say, look, I'm falling behind, one of the first questions we'd ask is how much time are you actually setting aside for each module?
Yeah.
Especially if students study more than one module, it is a lot to balance with so many assessments being around the same date, due date. So we try and sort of manage students' expectations of how much time to set aside and have time for themselves as well, because it's important that they're enjoying their studies as well as getting the good grades that we want them to get.
No, absolutely. Okay, so we asked people about when they ask for support, and this is interesting. There are three options: when I think I need it, when I know I need it, and when I'm in a situation I just can't deal with myself. And 49% said that they ask for support when they know that they need it. How early on should people get in touch, or could people get in touch with you? Say, for example, that they're slipping, they're just not quite sure if it is or isn't a problem. Should they get in touch then, or should they get in touch when it really, really is a problem, or when they just are absolutely on their knees?
I would say as soon as they think that there is going to be a slight issue, just let us know.
Yeah.
If they think that they're going to anticipate, I don't know, sometimes people have issues with, say, for example, employment issues, and they can't get enough time. Talk to us about it so we can see if studying is the right option for you right now, or if you would like to stay on the module, how we can work around you staying on the module and supporting you on the module. So definitely let us know as soon as you think there's a slight issue at any point, really.
I've had some students who we've thought, they really want to keep going, but they just haven't had the time. So we said, let's focus on these things and make a plan so you can catch up on the other stuff over the summer break, and you can pick up the areas that are not so essential for the assessments or the exam, but that are interesting to you. And so we have a plan that can hold it together and not feel like they're missing out, but it's just a slightly different way of still proceeding. It doesn't always have to be that do I stay or go type choice, does it?
No, there's definitely more to it, I think, and there's so much support we can offer, and so much support available to students that hopefully they can just call us and we can give them the options, because it's not obvious sometimes what your options are, but that's what we're here for, to kind of listen to
it's not the case of, well, you're failing, therefore you're off. It's just,
not at all.
So we asked people, Jennifer, which method of contact they're most likely to use. Very interestingly, 50%, the highest number, said a web form or email. I know. 29% said telephone and 21% said web chat, which is interesting, because I think sometimes it's easier to send an email because you're in control of it. No one's going to say anything too bad. But actually, I know from being with the student support team that you guys are so helpful. It's not just what you say, but it's the space you give students to think about those issues and think about the questions they may not have even asked. So how do they get in touch, and what are the sort of hours and ways, and what would you recommend for different types of people, bearing in mind some people just don't want to talk to somebody?
Sure. Yeah, so we do encourage students to call up, just because it is an immediate form of contact, and we can talk through anything that they're going through there and then. But we understand a lot of people are busy, so we've already talked about our students having jobs or other commitments, so we understand that they might not necessarily have the time, and it might be quicker just to send that email, or they might feel more comfortable doing so. But we are open from 8 till 8 in the weekdays, our phone lines, and we are working on emails in those times as well. And on Saturdays we're open 9 to 5. So we try to accommodate our students who are working or have young children at home, anything like that going on. In terms of the ways that they can contact us, like you said, a lot of students feel more comfortable doing online, and that can be really beneficial for those who maybe are at work and are using their web chat on their break. They don't have time to make the phone call.
Submarine.
Exactly, or if we have lots of international students, they might feel better contacting us then, depending on like the time difference, things like that. But we're happy to go with whichever works for the students. So even if we call you, or you're on the phone and you don't feel 100% comfortable, or something comes up that you don't want to talk about over the phone, we completely understand that, and they're more than welcome to email us in instead, and we can even note that down so that, you know, a student with anxiety, for example, we wouldn't be bombarding them with telephone calls, because that can be really difficult and uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Because you said an interesting thing there, because some students call you, but you sometimes call and check in on students, and you do that just because you're caring for them, as opposed to, but sometimes you get a phone call, especially if you're feeling behind and you think, they're calling me, they're on to me. So what happens in those situations?
So I think, you're absolutely right there. Sometimes you'll see the number and think, oh no, like, what is this phone call about? Either you won't recognise the number, you don't want to pick up anyway, which I completely relate to, but a lot of students might feel that we're chasing them, or that they've done something wrong or even in trouble. But that's not the case at all. We are just here to support them. And I think what we were talking about earlier about contacting us as soon as possible,
Yeah.
the sooner we know what's going on, like the sooner we can help them and give them the different options.
Yeah.
And prevention is always better than cure. So the sooner we know, or you can even have that conversation before anything is going wrong.
Yeah.
So we can just have that support in place, and they know how to contact us, just to make them feel more comfortable in their study journey with us.
Okay, brilliant. Now, we'd been asking students who logged on right at the start of the day how long it had been since they were out of education. For some people, it wasn't very long, whereas for others, it was like a really, really long period of time. What advice would you give to those who haven't been in educational, in that sort of system for a bit?
I think always sort of remind yourself why you're studying, because it can be quite hard to stay focused and motivated, and it's really easy to sort of fall out of line. So just remember why you're studying, and if it has been a long time, there's different ways you could try and prepare yourself. So we've got Open Learn, and there's loads of free modules on there with our previous sort of content. Just have a practice on there and see if you're happy to sort of...
There's also stuff like if you're worried about maths and things on Open Learn as well that are
yeah,
really
like
fab.
short quizzes,
Yeah.
and they really do help. Sometimes we kind of take the short courses ourselves. If we're working on a Saturday, we're kind of like going on there just to see what it's like, and it's actually really easy to use, hopefully, and it's quite it's a good way to get some practice in. What else would you sort of advise?
Well, people have got different sort of backgrounds as well, and Liliana was saying, you know, for her, because English isn't a first language, she sometimes has to accommodate different sorts of levels. And I guess the one thing, I mean, students do have disabilities, various things happen. Sometimes a screaming child can just really, like, you know, not help you concentrate and stuff. But there are these resources and things, but equally sometimes there's this pressure to think I've got to be on this level playing field, I've got to, you know, upskill at the start, of course, I've got to know all the maths before I even do the maths and stuff like that.
I guess you do get a lot of support from stage 1 modules, from tutors anyway, because there's so many students from different sort of educational backgrounds, like you said, and experiences that we just want to see how we can sort of upskill them at stage 1. So the support you could easily on on the student homepage, there's quite a lot of resources on there to sort of get you started.
There are also some fab little diagnostic tools as well, because as you say, level 1 does sort of gradually increase your skill base. You don't need to know anything or be brilliant before you start level 1. But there's some great little diagnostic tests, like, am I ready for study? And it's got various things on it that you can do. And I guess if you know you are, then you are, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that can be quite helpful.
Yeah, definitely. That, I think, is a really good quiz to start off with, just so that you kind of know where you're standing. And yeah, I guess, again, because it's quite difficult to kind of get yourself ready for it, you could just sort of speak to us and see what other ways we can sort of guide you towards it, if that makes sense.
No, that's perfect. There are loads of people who are really identifying with being out of study, you know, some for over 30 years, and that can feel quite, you know, weird, I guess. But it's knowing that you know, OU students are united in the sense that everyone is unique, everyone's got different stuff going on, everyone's got their own battles, don't they, and things. But one of the other areas I wanted to ask about is this thing of falling behind and time management, which has also been another key issue for people. What happens if students fall behind?
So ideally we would like the student to contact us just to let us know that they're struggling with whatever it may be. So if they are falling behind for academic reasons, or they're just not engaged in the content, we would really advise them to speak to their tutor. So as Najiba said, they are the great point of contact on the module. They know all the academic information and things like that. So they are a really great person to talk to about falling behind with studies. And they can advise the student on how best to catch up and how that might interfere then with their further studies going forward. They can also offer one-to-one support in the form of individual support sessions. So we can help arrange that for a student as well, but it'll be led by the tutor, just to give them that sort of like an hour of time where they just dedicate to that student so they can go over any sort of academic issues that they're having. Obviously, it might not just be an academic issue or like a wrong qualification that's affecting their studies. So it's also to do with things like ongoing health issues, like we were saying earlier about employment, if you have small children, just any sort of change in any circumstance can really affect a student's studies, and that's where we really want to be able to support them. But because we are distance learning, it's really important for the student to let us know whatever's going on, even if they think that they can handle it or it's not something that they think that they should be getting in the way of their studies. We are here to support them through anything that they are going through.
I hear Chiara wants to eat, but doesn't want to put this down. HJ, I hope you've told her about the catch-up.
I know. Well, Scott was just saying as well, he's deciding whether to keep watching or to go off to the library to study. But the fantastic thing about all these events is that if you go back onto the event page on the website, they are available through live stream to rewatch. And then shortly after the events as well, they come up on our YouTube channel, all split down into nice sessions. So it's great to keep an eye off the YouTube channel. And as well, a lot of people are asking about the time management and the Adobe Connect events. If you subscribe to our mailing list through the Student Hub Live website, I'll put a link in there in the chat in a second, then you can keep updated with all the events that are coming up and all these great opportunities to meet OU students.
Fab. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, you'll also get the notifications when we release new content. And there's plenty more as well on the website of all sorts of things. You can end up in a rabbit hole. Are you answering everyone's questions?
Trying to, but I'm getting help from other students.
Good.
For Chiara, actually. So that was, thank you, Claudia. Anyway, we've got quite a few students saying that they haven't studied in a long time.
Yeah.
And fears about, exams and, just getting back into the sort of an academic mode.
Yeah.
So just to say to them, you're not alone. We have tons of students, and I talk to students every day in student support that have similar fears. I'm sure my colleagues will attest to that as well.
Yeah.
So there's plenty to do. There's plenty of ways to catch up, and it's not as daunting and scary as you might think.
No, absolutely. Jay can't wait to start studying, and she's supposed to start on Saturday, but she started already because she's so super keen. I mean, this is one of the other really, really important points that we haven't touched on, and I'll just mention briefly, is that if you are starting, you're starting at level 1 or at access, and those grades don't matter in terms of your qualification. What matters is level 2 and 3. Level 1 and access are your chance to play around, to make loads and loads of mistakes, to learn and to get used to studying, and so while it can seem really daunting, especially with assessment or exams, they're often areas that you get so much support from academically, but also, while it's remiss to say they don't matter, because they do matter to people, the grades don't matter in terms of the overall qualifications. So that's a key point. We'd seen people in terms of the things that they were worried about, talking about disability. This is another area I'd just like to cover because you guys do help a lot with things like that. So things with disabilities, and also then we'll talk about changes in circumstances. But Najeeba, how do we support students with disabilities?
So generally, if I'm speaking to a student on the phone, I'll sort of ask a question just to sort of test the waters a little bit. If a student isn't comfortable enough to talk about it, then I'll try and sort of signpost them to the student homepage to say, let us know and fill in this profile section. And what normally happens is if they can tell us as much as they want to about any sort of learning difficulties or anything related to health, another advisor will contact them to understand their circumstances, and then whatever support we can give them, we'll have that conversation with them and talk to them through it. But generally, if it's within the student support team, there's so many places we can signpost them to find out, because some students, they don't realise that they do have dyslexia, so then they want to find out, how do I get a dyslexia test done? And we can signpost them to applications and places to find to do the dyslexia test.
Perfect, thank you. And just to end with, Jen, what happens if students have a change in circumstances?
So it would depend on the circumstances themselves and how the student feels that it would be affecting them. But we can always reduce sort of a study intensity. So students often don't realise that they don't have to stay studying full-time or part-time throughout the duration of their qualification. They can do anywhere from 30 credits to the full 120 in a year. So if they've just got a new job and it's a lot more intense, then we can reduce that. Or if they find actually they've got a lot more time on their hands, they can increase it. So I think a lot of the time that people think they can only contact us when things are going wrong. But, if you're really enjoying your studies and you want to increase that and you're really happy to continue, then you can also talk to us about that and doing extra bits and bobs. I think that's really important. But we are obviously here to support them when things do go wrong as well. So that could be anything to do with health and disability, like we've just been speaking about, any personal circumstances. Unfortunately, sometimes we do have to deal with students who've suffered bereavement or a loss of some kind. And it's just really important to let us know about that so we can put in place a potential study break, extra support for them, and just to give them all of their options. So if it's not the right time for study, they can come back when it is, but just to let them know that we are here just to talk to them most of the time. A lot of them, if they do have a lot going on, they just need somebody to talk to about their studies, and obviously we understand how it works. Like, we are here for them, specifically for that. So I think that it is really good for students just to reach out when anything happens, just so we can have that general chat. And a lot of them, after speaking to us, do just feel like a weight has been lifted, knowing that someone at the university knows what's going on in their life.
Yeah. No, it's really good. And you're all such a really lovely, friendly bunch of people. So thank you for coming along and for being so lovely and friendly here and for outlining all the ways you can help people. And I hope that has reassured you at home. Chloe says that she's really found the talk about level 1 really reassuring. So I'm really pleased. And as I said earlier, sometimes you don't know necessarily the questions that you've got, but I'm hoping that things are becoming a little bit more clear. There is nothing silly to put in the chat. So if you're worried about something or you'd like to ask something or share something, please do that. This is your opportunity to have Scott answer any question for a little bit before he goes back to take some phone calls from you. And you can phone today. But we're going to show you a video now, which is one of our replays that we did earlier, which is about tutor and tutorials. And we also have an opportunity for you to go to a tutorial and talk to Isabella in the online room. So you can check that out from the Student Hub Live website on the programme. Isabella and I run the majority of the Adobe Connect sessions, which you can find out about also on the Student Hub Live website. They're heaps and heaps of fun, and it's a nice chance to be able to go in the room and check you can't break the system, which you can't. But we'll be back after we've had a cup of tea for our next live session at 12:30 with Michelle and Patrice, and that's about getting buy-in from your friends and family. So hopefully you can have a think about how you might do that and share some tips and advice about your plans to do that, and also we'll hear what they have to say. I'll see you then.